Hey guys, today we're going to be doing door-to-door sales. So, for a quick background, I'm Zach and work for a company, a solar company. We go door to door, knocking on people's doors, you know, talking about whether or not they need batteries, solar panels, discussing people's quarterly bills and such. So, let's get straight into it. Alright, so right now I'm on Google Maps as you can see. Um, so, what we're going to do is we're just going to pick a random suburb. Actually, first I'll show you the suburb I was in before. So, the company had sent us out to a place called Ingleburn. Now, in Ingleburn, there was a good amount of people who are quote hunters, and I'll get into that right in a minute. So, I'll tell you what a quote hunter is. I'm just going to show you a street, just a random street. Let's pick Palmer Street, for example. So, Palmer Street. Okay, this is a good street to start on. You can already see that there's a solar in the area. So, pick this house for example. Alright, now, see this house, right? When you're doing door-to-door knocking, right, you're going to have a map, or you're going to get dropped off by, most likely, somebody, the company van or something, and then you'll get dropped off, and then you'll have a turf. So, I'm going to draw up something on a map, show you what a turf looks like. So what we'll do, this is what I like to use. I love to use the snipping tool. Best tool ever comes to doing stuff on maps. So we'll just select this area. Now, let's go to drawing. We're going to draw with red. So what I'm going to do right now, I don't like how that looks. There we go. So what I'm going to do, this is going to be a pain in the ass, hold on. Exit from there. No. Red. Okay, so I'm going to show you how this works. We draw up a turf. We label all the streets, like so. Don't mind the messy drawing. What we're going to do is we're going to draw all the streets that we're going to knock on. So, for example, this is like a decent sized turf. So, save this. Save the capture. We're going to open capture. Alright, cool. So, this is what your turf would look like. You're going to knock on every house, every single door. If you miss even one door, then it's not the job for you. Because a lot of people, including myself too, when I first began, I only knocked on houses that had solar panels. Now, you shouldn't do that. You should knock on every single door, regardless of they have panels or not, and even if they have batteries already installed. I'll tell you why. So, what you want to do, you're going to have houses that have this. Up. So here, you're going to have something called this. PV. So PV sticker, get you a better example. Okay. So you're going to get something that looks like this. Ignore the SW. So PV. What does PV mean? So PV, what does PV stand for? Stands for photovoltaic. I don't know what that means. Anyways, this is what PV stands for. So this is the technology that converts light into electricity, most commonly seen in solar panels. So what this means is that any house, or I'm going to type this in for you guys, meter box, give you a better example. So this is what you're looking for. You're going to look for something. Trying to get a good example. Perfect. This is exactly what you're looking for. So you need to look for something that looks like this. You need to look for a meter box, and if they have no stickers, that means they don't have any solar panels. So what you need to do is, of course, knock on the door anyways, but what you're going to do is you're going to have to describe to them, well, not describe to them, but what you have to do is you have to have a certain pitch for each type of customer. So the type of customer that doesn't have panels, first of all, needs solar panels. And that's, of course, you have to first get into their bills. If their quarterly energy bills are quite high, what you need to do is you need to sell on that. And like, okay, your bills are quite high. Here's a solution. Of course, it's going to be a lot more complicated than that because you need to be able to sell to them without presenting yourself as a salesperson. We'll get into body language, how you dress, all of that as well. May do body language and how you dress in a different video. So in this video, to give you the basics of door knocking for solar people who work in solar. So this is the place you're working with, right? This is your turf. Now, what I like to do, show the image here. What I like to do on the maps or with an image, anytime I have ticked something off, let's say I've already done a house. What you do is just fill it in. House done. The blue means house done. If you want, I mean, of course you can do any color you want. Let's say there's a house that you need to still go back to. Don't leave it unmarked. What you should do is go white, for example. Let's say I missed one of the houses. The house next door, white, that means I have to go back to that house. To give you a quick example, white means I have to still go back to it. And blue means already pitched them, already done. So when you've pitched them, you can't go back because they don't want it, or failed in your pitch, or you didn't do something correctly, or their bills were too low. Whatever reason it could be, you've already pitched them, which means you can't go back. White means you can go back because either one, the homeowner wasn't there, two, there was no car on the drive, but go knock anyways. But if there was no one home, go back again until somebody has arrived back at their house. And by the way, never do this. Number one, never ever go knock on a door when they've just arrived from home. Now, I understand that this may be like something, oh, well, you just talked to them, right? The thing is, they've just come back from work, which means it's not the best idea. Instead, what you need to do is not go to their place as soon as they've arrived back home. You want them to get settled in first. So wait for them to go into the house and then knock on their door. Big tip. Don't ever try to just talk to people when they're in their car outside their house. If they're outside their house, there are a couple of ways you can know when to approach them, but never in their car. It's a bit invasive. Don't try to knock on someone's door when they're in their car. Now let's say they arrived home and you're knocking on the door and they're not there. Simple. You just casually walk away from the house. Don't stare at the person in the car, but what you do is act like you don't know anyone's even there. And then usually, 99% of the time, they're going to be like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And it says, "Okay, look, we're just trying to catch up or follow up on something. Let's say like a letter we sent out to all the homeowners about a week ago." And then that's where you start your pitch from there. We use a letter pitch. So there's many other pitches you should use, but the letter pitch is a good one to start off with. So that's what blue means. Blue, I've already done the pitch. White means I need to still go back. Now, there are a couple of other colors you could use. Now, for example, if I book someone in, just select the address of the person you've booked in. Green. Green means I've booked them in. Green means I've booked them in. They're booked in with a specialist tomorrow afternoon, preferably. Or if they're booked in a different day, just say, okay, they're booked in for blah, blah, blah. So green means they're booked in. So what you're going to eventually do is, what you have to do is knock every single door. Now, there are exceptions. There's some doors you should not knock on, not because it's, some doors are actually a waste of time. If a building looks like a rental, it's most likely a rental. Still knock, obviously, but if it's an apartment, you shouldn't even be knocking on the first place. If it looks like a unit, if it's a unit and not a house, then most likely there's no homeowners. However, you will get places that look like houses and they're renting. Can't sell to rentals. You can only sell to people who are homeowners. And that's usually what you can't really go any further than there. If they're renting, you can't sell to them. So you have to qualify your leads. They say they're renting, can't sell anything to them. If, for example, none of the homeowners are there, you can't really sell to them, but what you could do is book in the future with them. You can keep their contact details and book them later. So, for example, I got one person that I'm going to book in 8 days' time because the homeowner wasn't there. I was talking to someone else in the house that was the son, for example, but he's not the homeowner. So you can't book in for other people. That's a big important thing. Never try to book in for someone who's a decision maker, who isn't a decision maker, but also never ever book in for only one spouse. What you need to do, you can still book in, but I think it's better that you hold off on the booking and get them to talk first. You preferably want both of the both homeowners there. If there's the wife at the door or the husband's at the door, you want preferably both partners at the door to speak to them. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot more difficult, trust me. And one thing I've noticed is if somebody is going to be like, let me talk to my wife about it first, try not letting them do that. If you know that the other spouse is in the house, if they're there, the partner is still in the house, try to get them to come out the door. Say like, oh, well, I need to talk to my partner first. If they're there in the house, get them to come to the front door. Because otherwise you have no control over what they're going to do when they're talking away from the door. The most important thing to do is always have the customer at the door. If the customer's away from you, it's most likely not going to happen. So what you need to do is always talk to both partners. Try to get their contact details and then talk to them first. So basically, essentially, you're pitching to both of the homeowners, both partners. I'll get that into a little bit more detail later. Basically, I'll drop myself on the map. Okay, for example, houses that don't have solar. Let's say, I don't know if this house has solar. Okay, so no, it doesn't have any solar. Even on the box, the meter box, you can tell whether or not it has solar. Let's go over here. So no, it doesn't have any solar. So this house, you would pitch to them on their current energy bills and try to get them to get solar. And I'll describe how to pitch them. So let's go to someone else. Now, houses that are, that have gates or fence, I recommend you don't go into a house that looks like this. Any house that looks like it's a bit dodgy or looks like it's not well kept, don't go into those houses because 1 out of 10 times, well, I would say 9 out of 10 times, you're not going to get either a homeowner that could be renting or they don't have any money for your product. That's another thing too. A lot of people say they don't have money for their product. Of course they do. If it's a good looking house or an average house, they've got the money, trust me. But if it's really bad looking, another thing also, if the roof is bad, let's say the roof is bad, they can't install the panels without fixing their roof first. But remember this, if a lot of things are not fixed in their house, they're most likely not going to be able to afford the solar product or the products that we're offering. So if they don't even have panels and their roof looks bad, don't sell to them. And I guess when you're going to houses, or you're trying to knock on doors, try not knocking on places that clearly look like units. Like some places look like housing commission. So this doesn't look, some of these don't look like houses. So avoid those. Another thing also, if it says for sale, of course don't go to that house. If it says for sale, but someone has already bought it, that could be a good idea to go pitch to them. Let's say they've just moved in. Now, you don't technically need their energy bills, but what you need to do is, especially if they buy the house with solar, you can then offer a battery. And then you can go forward from there. Of course, I'll talk more about that later with another pitch in a different video. But this is just getting the basics done. Just trying to get some groundwork. If a house is clearly gated off, don't go in there. If they have a lock on their gate and then you can open it, go ahead. But if you can't see, let's say the back, or you don't know what's around the house, it's probably not a good idea because there could be a dog. Now, of course, they're going to have a sign at the front that will say, okay, there's a dog there. But generally speaking, you don't want to go near those houses because you're going to get mauled to death by a dog. So don't do that. Recommend you don't do that. Try only going to the houses that generally have solar, because people who don't even have solar are not even sold on the idea of solar. Now, there are exceptions, but people with solar, a lot better in general. So, for example, I want to show you, if they're not keeping their panels clean, let's say there's like something growing on the panels or the panels look very, very old, there could be a lot of reasons for that. Mainly, it's because they don't actually care about their panels. So that's not a good idea. You shouldn't go to houses that have that because it could very well be just a time waster. What you want to try to do, of course, is qualify the leads first. The best part or the best piece of advice for sales, especially door-to-door, is qualifying the leads before anything else. If you're just talking to talk, or if you're just listening to them ramble, but you haven't even qualified them first, then you're wasting quite a lot of time. So don't waste too much time talking to somebody who can't buy your product. And that's all for this video. I'm going to have a next part of this video or going forward from here. But yeah, if you love the video, you know, like, leave a comment, and yeah, see you next video.